Hello, my name's Bob and I'd like to welcome you to another episode on the White Dog Garage YouTube channel. In this episode, I am going to make a pair of steel brackets. Not very interesting for me, not very interesting for you. Except that I've had to make a template on site and bring it back to the workshop to construct them. That's an interesting process and I thought you'd like to follow along. This is the template that I made. 3 pieces of 6mm or 1/4 inch MDF hot glued together. Starts off here, this is the bottom of the bracket. And then there's a curve up here and a straight section up here. It's not perfectly square, as you can see. It's got to tuck in. It's probably that would be vertical and that would be less than vertical. It's the nature of some jobs after a while, not so plumb anymore. And I have marked bolt holes, a reference point. I've got the curve right, and it's the inside of the template that is critical to the positioning of the weld construction fabrication that I'm going to build. So I took the template back to the office and I did a drawing which provides a guide to me in the workshop. So on the drawing I've traced the critical dimensions, the critical angles, the holes, the positions of the holes. I've got another elevation that is just showing me the position of the holes that are on top of the structure. I am fabricating 2 identical brackets here. The brackets are made up of 3 pieces, each one lying at an angle to the other. Here the template is the point of truth. The drawing is only a guide, but it has its uses. For example, the relative angles between the pieces were measured using a protractor, the angles of which could be a degree or 2 out. I need to be able to set the half angles to make the cuts, but ultimately, when it is welded together, the angles need to match the template, not the drawing. So, my first job is to cut out the steel sections that I need. I'm using a dry cut saw for this, and only showing you, the viewer, a couple of the cuts. The brackets are being made out of 50 by 50mm or 2 by 2 inch square hollow section with a 5mm or 3/16 of an inch wall thickness. The bottom rail has to go over a protrusion, and this is being accommodated by welding on 2 50 by 6mm or 2 by 1/4 inch pieces of steel bar to act as fish plates. So, during the episode, you will hear me talk about half angles. What do I mean by half angles? This is the template here. If we look at the angle here between the bottom rail and this section going up here, this angle is in fact 114 degrees and the half angle is 57 degrees. What is the value of the half angle? I'll show you with another piece of RHS. These 2 pieces have been cut not quite 45 degrees. They're just cut on the saw. But when I take them, separate them, turn it up like here, we have a new included angle here, which I thought when I picked these out of the scrap bin was going to be 90 degrees, but slightly more than 90 degrees, so obviously that half angle is a bit more than 45 degrees. But the point is, you join these 2 here, it's a nice strong single weld. You could, for example, you wanted 135 degrees, you could cut one piece at 45 and one at 90, 9, 4, 13, 135. Then you have the problem of joining the 2. You join like that or join like that. If you were doing this, you would actually join like that, but you would have to trim your bottom and either plate over it, or what you normally do is cut out sections here, and hammer down this top piece to make the join. You touch it all up with the grinder. So that's what I mean by half angles. Having cut out all the pieces I needed, I then welded the fish plates to the top side of each of the bottom rails. These plates don't necessarily need to be welded to the rails, but it is the simplest way to hold them in position for when I drill the mounting holes. The plate sizes and position will match the mounting surface when the rails are bolted in place. As I am welding these rolls on a flat steel surface, the easy way to make sure the sides of the plate and the rail are aligned is to lightly clamp them together, and then, with the rail on its side, taps the sides of the plate and the rail so that they both seat on the steel plate. With the plates welded onto the bottom rails, the next job was to drill the holes for the mounting bolts. I'm using the bench mill for this purpose, and I'm using 2 spacers beneath the rail to keep the drill away from the machined surface of the vise. I am mounting the rail upside down in the vise, as the bottom hole has to be a bigger diameter than the top one. Viewers may notice that I've made a mistake at this point. More on that later. I'm drilling a 6mm or 1/4 inch pilot hole first, and this goes all the way through. Satisfied that the drill is in the correct position, I lock the table in the X and Y directions and commence the drilling process. The 6mm pilot hole will be followed by a 13mm or 1/2 inch diameter bolt hole, which also goes all the way through, and then the top hole, which is really the bottom hole, will be enlarged to 25mm or 1 inch in diameter. The lock table ensures that each hole remains concentric. Following the plan, after the pilot hole has been drilled, it is enlarged with a 13mm drill. Then the bottom hole was enlarged to 25mm. So this is the bottom rail. This is the bottom rail that I didn't use. Do you know why I didn't use it? Because I made a mistake. This angle is supposed to be like that because the next piece goes on here. Unfortunately, I welded the fish plates on the wrong side and never checked, and then went through and drilled the holes, and of course it all went to poo. It is what it is. I didn't record too much of I didn't record anything of the remaking of the bottom rails. I just remade the bottom rails because videoing takes time, and at that stage I was running out of the time that I had allocated to the job. Okay, so the other question you might have, why have I got the big holes in the bottom? And the reason I have the big holes in the bottom is so that I can get a socket through to do up the bolt that's attaching the top of the rail to the structure that it attaches to. This is quite a legitimate method to do it. If you're talking about forces, the forces are really carried by the sides of the section, not by the underneath. That's just a web. You could run a bolt through, however, if you're going to do that, you get creep in your steel. As thick as this is, once you clamp up those two sides, you get subtle creep over time where the sides will slightly bow, and this will develop a bit of spring, and your bolts conceivably come a little bit loose. If you're going to run a bolt all the way through, and that's fine, you can do that, but the way to do these is to then put a piece of pipe like that, put that through so it covers the hole, put it all the way through if you want to, and then merely weld the pipe into the section. You cut it off flush, of course, and then you'll run your bolt in and through, and it will not bow the section, and it will hold the pipe, and the pipe will act as it's just a compressive force on the pipe. With the bottom rails done, I then made up a fixture plate to hold the bracket pieces in place while they were welded together. The fixture is made by welding 3 pieces of scrap to the steel plate I've been using as a welding table. The template, being the point of truth in this exercise, is used to position the clamp holes. I clamped the bottom part of the template so that I could make sure that I had the alignment right for the upright part of the bracket. Then it was on to assembling the brackets. The 3 pieces making up each bracket are clamped to their respective fixture mounts. Because of the differences between the drawing and the template, the fit is not perfect, but the small gaps resulting from this are easily filled with weld metal. Each bracket is tacked together with weld at 4 corners of each joint and then removed from the fixture plate to be welded up later. With the joints all welded out and the brackets cleaned up, this workshop job is done. So there you have it, fabricating brackets based on a template. The key points were that the template is the point of truth, but you need the drawing to give you an impression of what you're aiming for, the position and diameter of the holes that you need to drill, and probably the most important bit, the half angles that you will need to set the saw at to make the cuts. Thanks for watching. This channel is about making, maintaining, fixing and restoration projects. And if you like that sort of stuff and you haven't already subscribed, well, please hit the subscribe bar down below. And while you're there, don't forget to ding the bell so that you're reminded by YouTube whenever a new video from the White Dog Garage channel comes out. Thank you.